I love that music. You can't see me while this is going on, but I'm sitting here dancing. Chair dancing, as we all know. So, welcome. I'm Pat Esgate. I'm the host of ALBW Live, and I'm also the co-creator, along with my pal Cheryl McDonald, of Anlister Birthday Week, ALBW. And I'm really excited about telling you what's coming up for 2025. We're going to have a really busy morning here because we've got afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. We have 5 guests today because of the way that ALBW ALF is set up this year. We have many events going on that we want to make sure you know about. Let's see. Now, what's going to happen here is that during the time that we're talking to the people that are talking about their specific events, you'll see a link that comes up under their name as to where their tickets will be available. Don't worry about trying to write all that down right now. Sometime today, hopefully shortly after the live ends, I will post at ALBW chat and at the ALBW page, which is a completely different thing, the links that you'll need to get to those events. So no worries. But before we get going on this, there's 2 really important things that I want to bring up. First and foremost, thoughts, prayers, incense burning, whatever it is that is your thing, for all the people out in the Los Angeles area that are going through the horrific fires which have yet to be contained. There is no fire that's more than 8% contained. And so please send your best energy out to them. And from my perspective as well, all of the animals that have felt the impact of this. So everyone, I have 3 friends who have lost their homes completely. So keep that in mind, please, for what's going on. Secondly, really important, especially for newbies who have not been to the UK before. This year, the UK has instituted what's called, I think it's called the electronic travel entry. You will be required, even if you're a Canadian or an American, because we've always had that relationship with the UK, where we were able to get in on our own passports without a visa, you will still have to have an ETA. So it's really easy to do. It takes about 10 minutes, and I think it costs you all of $13. But you will have to show it to get into the country. So please, 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 there it is. See how simple that link is? UK-ETA.com. Write that down. Click on it after the live and get your paperwork in order. The only thing you're going to need when you do that is your passport, because they're going to ask you to take a picture of the passport to go into their system. So please make sure, because we don't want anybody missing out on this because of that. Let's see. I want to make sure I got through all of that. Last thing, I want to say hello to all of our newbies. You know, every year, Cheryl and I get really excited about the people who post at ALBW chat saying that this is going to be their first time, because it really is an amazing and exciting and just such a heartwarming event to be at. So I am welcoming you specifically. And if you've never been to Halifax, my dear friend Ian Phelp, who you're going to see a little bit later in this live cast, mentioned that I should mention to you at ALBW chat, you will find Pat Esgate's tour guide to Halifax. I put that together in 2019 after my first trip. It covers all sorts of things: hotels, restaurants, how to get from the airport to Halifax, any number of things, Shibden Hall, you name it, it's in there, how to get to it, what to look for, and some fun facts that go along with it. So that is at ALBW chat right now. If you're really, really new and you haven't signed up at ALBW chat, that is a private Facebook page. So you'll have to ask to be admitted, but we take care of that, pretty darn quickly. So you'll be able to get in, because you are going to want to be able to find out about not just this information today, but it's where all of our announcements about what's going to happen with ALBW are in that group. Okay, that's the ALBW chat group. Now we can finally get to the good stuff. And as you all know, this year, or most of you know, this year, Cheryl and I took a full step backwards and turned all of the events over to Rachel Lappin and the Ann Lister Festival. Well, ALBW, for those of you who watched our live cast on Saturday, you know that we had some huge technical difficulties right in the beginning. So I've chosen to re-record Rachel's piece so that you can see everything that she and her team have worked so hard on to create for your benefit. So in order to make sure that you've got all that, we're re-recording it now. We're going to put it in with the rest of the tape, and that's why you're seeing this differently. So without further ado, let me tell you what all that hard work has come to, and I can't tell you how impressed I am with all of it. You guys are in for something really special. So first of all, keep in mind that the Calderdale Ann Lister Festival will have over 70 different events over that entire week, which goes from Saturday, March 29th until Sunday, April 6th. So tons of stuff going on. And as you know, ALBW itself, our community gathering, will be from April 3rd until April 6th. So let's go. First of all, Saturday, March 29th. This year, again, they will have a Regency dance event for you. This one is going to be held at Todd Morden. It'll be similar to the informal dance that was held at last year's event in a different location. It's going to be led by the newly formed Ann Lister dancers. So you'll get to understand exactly what those period dances are and get a chance to try them on. And I also hope that you'll show up in your Regency dress, because that's what makes it fun. But don't worry if you aren't. If you want to come in jeans and a flannel shirt, that's our community. So what the heck? All right. So that's Saturday, March 29th. Now, on Sunday, March 30th, another really exciting event, Hebden Bridge, which of course is the capital of lesbians in the UK, will be hosting a community film festival at the fabulous Hebden Bridge Theater. Now, they're going to offer 2 sessions in this film festival. They've got, on the first session, they've got 2 magnificent lesbian documentaries. First, we have Old Lesbians, Megan McDonough's incredibly moving story of her journey across the United States as she recorded oral histories with older lesbians. And I can speak for myself, we're leaving fairly quickly, so you might want to watch this thing. In any case, that's going to be followed by Not Quite That, a really humbling story of Sarah, a Jewish woman, a mother, and a butch lesbian who has the genetics for breast cancer. And boy, I could talk to you about that one. So in any way, it's an intimate exploration of how others see us and how we see ourselves, which obviously changes when you go through that process. Session 2 of that will include Yorkshire's premiere of an amazing new film called Lesvia. Now, a lot of you who have been to the Isle of Lesbos to celebrate on that particular week will recognize this. This film chronicles 40 years of lesbian identity and conflict in the small farming village of Eressos on the Isle of Lesbos, and the pilgrimages that people have made to that beach resort over the last 40 years. There will be a post-film event. It's going to be Greek night at the Hagia Sophia restaurant, also in Hebden Bridge. Mediterranean food, of course. So that would be a really fun way to gather and spend some time with your community. Monday, March 31st, a mellow Monday evening. Now, those of you who were in Halifax last year know that Calderdale found a new space for us outside of the Cagill rooms, which will not be in use this year because there's a wedding there. So they have created Ann Lister HQ in town. When you look at Rachel's event guide, you'll see where that HQ is and what's going to be going on at that particular night. This is Monday evening again. It's going to be a video of what Rachel calls the 2 R's, herself, Rachel Lappin, and Rachel Whitbread, talking with none other than the fabulous Helena Whitbread. This is a recorded event. It will not be Helena in person. But if you have questions that you'd like to address to Helena, you'll be able to email those in advance. And again, if you look at Rachel's event guide, and Jen will be putting up there it is right there. Thank you, Jen. If you go to the site, look at the event guide, you'll see where to mail those questions to for Helena. Okay. So really quite exciting. Again, that's at HQ. Wednesday, April 2nd, an evening at Shibden Hall. Once all the visitors are gone and night falls and the lights come down low, you will have the opportunity to be in Shibden Hall in the evening, as the Anns spent many of their evenings in that same light, in that same atmosphere. So you'll have a chance to see, also see the costumes. Some of the costumes from Gentleman Jack will be there. And let's see, what else do we have here? And there is a food in the barn. That's included in the ticket. And also, Rachel says they'll also be unveiling a very exciting new acquisition for the museum's collection. So again, buffet food included. And if you brought along that Ann Lister gear, dress up, because this will be another night for it. Okay, flower laying at the Ann Lister statue will be on the morning of April 3rd, as always. And please make sure to check that in the guide, because suddenly I'm looking at this and I see that it's on April 2nd, but I pretty much remember Rachel saying that no, it would be on her birthday. So make sure you check that time in the guide. But this is always a very moving morning during the Ann Lister festivals. Flowers are placed on Ann's statue. There will be a choral event going on at the same time as there was last year, and that was really quite something. So please check that out. It's the place where we all gather on the morning of Ann's birthday, hopefully, if it's not the 2nd. So sorry, filling in here. Okay, and then Friday, April 4th, the Ann Lister Festival Candlelight Concert. This is exciting. This is going to be in the Halifax Minster. And of course, where Ann Lister was baptized and buried. So this is a wonderful place for concerts because the acoustics are just amazing. And in this particular evening, let's see, it will be, here we go, Fiona Kate Wildop, renowned harpist and luthier. And she'll be followed by Lisa Timms, the, quote, square pianist, who will be playing on her square piano. And if you're not familiar with square pianos, they were quite a trend in the 1800s. And for some weird reason, they had people go into this whole tizzy about square pianos, and actually had a period of time where they were being busted up and burned. So there's not lots of them left. And the opportunity to hear this on a piano that is congruent with Ann's time is going to be fantastic. Also, she says they're looking forward to the local trio, the Greyhounds, will be performing a unique canon of original narrative songs. So again, that is going to be at the Halifax Minster on Friday, April 4th in the evening. All right. Saturday, April 5th, there will be the Ann Lister Costume Parade. If you came last year and you joined the parade, you'll know that people joined all along the way. So it's really a wonderful event. It's a great way, once again, to show off that costume that you lugged all those many miles. And it's a ton of fun. It's a great way to gather with the community. And one of the great things is you're marching through Halifax, a town that has so greatly embraced us. And it just is a wonderful time to kind of show up and show off. Okay. That is Saturday, April 5th. Okay, and there's some other really fabulous events that are going on. Number one, on Friday and Saturday at the end of the week, there will be a daily screening of Gentleman Jack Season 1. So if you're of a mind and you want to gather together to watch some of those episodes, or all of it if you want to, that'll be at the, let's see here, Saturday, March 10 to 3:45 at the Media Store in the Central Library in Halifax. And most of you know where that is. For newbies, it's right at the Peace Hall. Not hard to find whatsoever. And I personally think it might be fun if a group of you want to go in there on one particular episode and show off your knowledge of the dialogue. You can do kind of a Sound of Music sing-along. Anyway, so that's just me. What can I say? The other thing I want to mention is In Search of Ann Walker will also have some really wonderful events during the Ann Lister Festival this year. One of them is, get this, an Ann Walker tour of Shibden Hall, where the leaders of In Search of Ann Walker will take you through Shibden Hall to talk specifically about Ann Walker's life there. They'll get rid of some of the mythology that's been out there about what happened in the Red Room, etc. And they will also give you tons of other information about Anne and her life at Shibden Hall. Really terrific. And then the second thing that In Search of Ann Walker will be doing is Ann Walker in the Archives. Now, this is a wonderful opportunity to visit the Halifax Archives with Ann Walker personnel who know the stuff that's in the archives about Ann Walker inside and out. They'll have some selections out that you can take a look at, and they will talk about those things and how they relate to the rest of the story that we know about Ann Walker and Ann Lister. So again, some really terrific things coming from In Search of Ann Walker. And finally, last but not least, following up on her trivia night, trivia afternoon last year, Beth Donald is going to be holding a trivia night at the Ann Lister HQ in town. So make sure you look for that in the schedule, because I don't have the exact date on that. So again, more great events. Now, the other thing that we need to tell you about is this year, the Ann Lister Society tickets will also be available in the Calderdale offering, because they are operating that event for us being I'm changing my hat, us being the Ann Lister Society. So make sure you look for your tickets for the Ann Lister Society, which of course is always held on Friday and Saturday. And that will be, again, at this link, annlisterofhalifax.co. And you will also, in this recording, be seeing, Laurie Shannon come on and talk about some of the wonderful events that they have going on, the papers, et cetera, that are going to be, read and delivered at the Ann Lister Society. So again, we can't thank Rachel and her team more for putting together this. It is a ton of work. Nobody knows this better than Cheryl and I. And again, our big concern was to make sure that you were able to see this offering on the recording as soon as we possibly could, because as you know, we typically put this recording up right after we're done with the live event. And because we knew we had some challenges, we weren't able to do that. So apologies for not getting it up right away, but here it is now. And so for all you newbies that are coming, this is really great stuff. And now we'll go back to our regularly scheduled recording. I'll see you in Halifax. So we're going to bring on Laurie Shannon. I hope Laurie's out there. And there she is.
Hi, everyone.
Many years ago, and I think it was 2019.
Yes, no, it was.
Was it 2019? I can't even remember.
Fall of 2019.
When you, Sally Wainwright, myself, and Ann Choma got together and said, you know what? It's time to launch an academic society. And we were fortunate enough to have found you along the way with your wonderful background. So happy, what is it now? So that's 6 years almost. Well done. Isn't that something? How time flies.
And perhaps we would have had 6 meetings by now if it hadn't been for COVID interruptions that turned events from a 3-day thing to a full week in those delays. Am I is my connection
Your connection
bumpy?
is
It's
great.
okay.
Yeah, that was
Okay,
Rachel's
so
connection. You're fine. Yeah.
all everyone has to deal with is my cold. So I'll do my best to broadcast well despite it. I think that it's worth putting a little history there, since there may be people who are coming for the first time.
Yes.
And the Ann Lister Society was a long-held idea of Sally's. And the phrase that has always stuck with me from those early days is that she was looking to create a space for what she, in her inimitable, simple clarity of words, a space for serious conversation about Ann Lister. And it's never been the intention to be strictly academic, although the academic dimension of this is a critical piece of what Ann Lister's legacy requires. We've talked a lot about how the ALS is going to be involved not only in getting Ann Lister's texts into the libraries of the world, but also into the curricula of schools and so on. And all of our meetings, including the fourth one coming up, involve academics, graduate students, independent researchers, and another thing that's really worth pointing out, people in the creative arts. And that mixture has, at least for me, as solidly in the academic camp, has been one of the richest parts of the serious conversation that ALS has been able to support. This year, I want to thank, in addition to Pat and Rachel, for helping sort of work through how ALS will be ticketed. I don't know whether in the garbled part of that segment it was made clear, but ALS will be ticketed through Rachel's website and ticketing process. Thanks, Cheryl or Jen, whoever's putting that up there. Jen. And if you follow ALS on social media, either the thing that shall not be named or Instagram or Blue Sky, we will post there too the details of how to get a conference ticket. As is the case from former years, I believe we'll be ticketing in 2 days. Day one is a ticket, day two is a ticket, and I believe that the reception on Friday evening is a separate ticket. That's how we've done it in the past, and I think that's how it's going this time. So what we like to do, for those of you who've been here before, the format is very familiar and similar. The only thing I can say is we've always been so jammed, rushing from thing to thing through the ALS meetings. We've tried to set up a schedule this year that has a little more cushion to enable more of the serious conversation about Ann Lister to occur in the breaks between the official speakers and those who are attendees of the meeting. The colloquy and Q&A has always been so great and so exciting for researchers to have such an informed audience. And as I say to everyone as they're preparing their papers, this audience is going to have people in it that know more than you know about the thing you're talking about. So it's a really fruitful kind of exchange, and one that you cannot enjoy at a strictly academic meeting.
Right.
So the conversations have been grand, and we've tried to make a little more space for that by making the schedule less jammed, so people can talk more with each other. Anyway, so day one this year, as always, is the Friday. This year, that's April 4th. And we will post the exact times of panels once we have all the exactas about when the Square Chapel will be open. But anyway, assume roughly a 9:30 or 10 a.m. start. And we'll have a welcome. And this year, the panel sessions of ALS, that process of reading submissions, thank you to everyone who submitted, reading and vetting those submissions and putting the panels together was done by our conference co-chairs, Chris Rolston and Stephen Turton. Those of you who've been around will know their work and their generosity towards ALS very well. And I thank them for taking on that particular role this year. The panels, we have 3 panels on Friday. The first on a topic of perennial interest, Ann Lister and medicine. We're going to hear from Anna Clark about debates in 19th century medicine and particular stories about Isabella McLean and the Quack Doctor.
Wow.
Then we're going to hear from Imogen Cook, project centered on the medical networks and conversations in Ann Lister's Paris. The second panel is on Ann Lister and self-fashioning. And we're going to hear from Charlie Matthews about, I think, a much understudied area of Ann Lister's writing, and that's the role of her indexes in the journals. And we continue to need to theorize the relationship between what's she doing with the indexes and the body of the text that we already know well how to absorb. Then we'll hear from Elizabeth Dawson and Verity Joy about sartorial identity, more on the question of Lister's wardrobe. The third panel then on that day concerns Ann Lister's travel practices. First, we're going to hear about going to Italy with Lucia Falzari, Francesca Raya, and Irene Trotta. And then we're going to hear about negotiating the public sphere, specifically in train travel, from Sarah Wingrove.
Wow.
I did the job of putting together the keynotes. The first Friday keynote is, I'm very excited about this. Pat, you mentioned at the beginning, the Ann Lister Society was formed by 4 original co-founders, Sally, Pat, me, and Anchoma. So especially excited to have ALS feature Anchoma and her, our also dear friend Jennifer Van Gessel, who's making today happen too, in addition to her other work. I'm sure all of you have heard with incredible excitement that this film process is underway for a major film, Ann Lister feature film called Langton. And Jennifer and Anne have been thinking really hard about how to, like, what lens of reading do they want to apply to the Langton period of Ann Lister's life. And so they're going to be looking and walking through with us what it means to think of Ann Lister through a Gothic lens.
That's
great.
great.
I think everyone will remember that Ann Lister had a lot of suspicion about the novel compared to more serious forms of reading. But she was suspicious about the novel and the Gothic because it made her too emotional. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing more from Jen and Anne at our Friday feature keynote about that. End of the day Friday, then we will have the Ann Lister Society reception, and that's going to be in the Ann Lister program headquarters, which I have not yet seen, but I'm looking forward to seeing. The second day, then, day 2, on Saturday, we've featured 2 3-person panels. First, Ann Lister's signifying strategies, and that'll feature Constance Halstead, who's going to talk about blood and ink and menstruation in the juvenile journals, 1806 to 1810. We'll hear from Caroline Gonda on Ann Lister's style of feeling, which will bridge both the diaries and letters and talk about emotional styles. Yours truly is going to talk a little bit, I'm going to talk a little bit about Well, I'm going to bring Virginia Woolf in because I've been wanting to do that for a long time. I have such a
Yay.
I have such a fantasy if Virginia Woolf had read Anne Lister's diaries.
Yes.
And so I thought I'll take a throw at what that would look like. The second panel then on Saturday is called Lister's Background Characters. Joan Berta is going to talk about John Abbott and the Abbott Ladies' Homes in Halifax. Chris Rolston is going to talk about Lister's other women. We know less about them than we might. And Jan Kraus is going to talk about familial structures and Shibden as a queer household, which I think is really important to Anne Lister's formation.
Wow.
Finally, then, our keynote ending the conference, capstoning the whole thing, will be by Alison Dedman. Alison is professor of musicology over here a Brit over here in the States. And she is going to talk, I mean, it's been so cool, right? Because we've had a couple of papers over the years that were by musician scholars. Alison's more like a scholar musician. And I love getting, it takes a village to get a perspective on the complexity of Anne Lister and the richness that her archive provides us. And so Alison's going to talk about Anne Lister as an amateur and Anne Lister as a connoisseur. Both of these, of course, are terms of art in the history of music. And I think important, more granular approaches to how do we want to think about Anne Lister's musical identities. So that'll finish up ALS number 4, which I'm incredibly proud to have pulled off. I haven't done the count, but last year's count, we had 54. We had put out 54 presentations over those years. So I still need to do the math to add these to that total, all of them, peer-reviewed research that then undergoes the huge benefit of conversation with the most invested Anne Lister people on the earth, who are pretty much present all together in Halifax on these wonderful days.
Yeah, Laurie, it sounds like a really, really great lineup and just so much going on. Before I toss you off the screen, I want to thank you so much for having taken this on those many years ago and for giving it the exceptionally fine shine that you have given it by supporting the people who submit papers and just how you run the whole thing. And Anne would probably thank you as well. So listen, my friend, take your voice and rest.
Well, I do have to say we do keep Anne Lister's style requirements every day in mind. It's a tough threshold, but I can't be signed off without thanking you, Pat, without which nothing for ALS. And also Cheryl, thank you very much, and Jen. And to steal Pat's own line, see you in Halifax.
Bye, sweetie. Okay, wow. Well, there is a lot going on there, I have to say. Now, brief transition. We have a couple of more guests, and then I'll be wrapping up with the ALBW event. The reason we're doing it this way is we have certain events that have happened during every ALBW that we've put on that our ALBW community has come to expect, love, adore, buy tickets for, etc. They are not covered this year by the Anne Lister Festival, Calderdale's event. So I've invited 2 of those folks to come on just for a few minutes to talk a little bit about what's going on and let you know where you can get those tickets. So again, it's a little different this year. You are going to have to put together your schedule, know which events you want, and then you'll have to be purchasing them from different places. And I'd like to apologize for that, but I can't because I wasn't in charge of it this year. So there you have it. So without further ado, I want to welcome in Ian Phelp from Calderdale Heritage Walks, one of my all-time favorite people in the world. Hello, Ian.
Hello, Pat.
How are you? And thank you for having a good connection.
Yeah, well, let's hope we're okay and we can keep going
Yeah.
as Rachel was saying, in freezing conditions, perhaps I'll not freeze, but never mind.
Yes, indeed.
Yep.
So, Ian, first of all, there's been a little work done on the tower, and I know the tower is going to be open during ALBW. So, let's cover that really quickly.
Okay. There are two days. On the tower will be open on the Saturday and the Sunday from 10:30 to 12:30 in Lightcliffe, obviously.
Okay.
And the idea is that Dorothy Barker and myself will be there. We'll be welcoming you. We'll show you into the tower. And for people who haven't been in recently, we've now got a very good handrail. So the possibility of dropping accidentally 8 feet down, that's all gone now.
Thank you.
So on those two occasions, you'll be very welcome. Come along and we'll show you the tower, the churchyard, with a special introduction, as it were, to the real characters behind Gentleman Jack. And obviously, this, for many people, will be the first opportunity to see the new memorial stone for Anne Walker and her two aunts. That's obviously tremendous.
If that doesn't bring a little tug on your heart, if you're an Anne Walker and Anne Lister aficionado, nothing will, because it really is quite moving to finally see that stone in place. Jen, before we go further, could you go ahead and put up the link for the CHW walks so people do understand that there's a different place for that? Ian, you have 3, and that will be on the menu that we prepare for you, so you don't have to write it down right now. So, Ian, you've got 3 other things going on in terms of the walks. Tell us a little.
Yeah, on Sunday the 30th at 10:30. Jill Liddington, and I guess just about everybody has heard about Jill and her works. An expert, I think, not only on Anne Lister, but also in terms of the Shibden environment. And she's putting on a short walk, and it really is quite a stroll around Shibden Hall, the outside, and talking about what Anne, during the period that she was living there, put in, and the changes that she made, not just to the hall, but also to the immediate Parkland estate. And there will be the opportunity, clearly, to ask questions of Jill. And I think she'll be looking forward to chatting and meeting with people again. A very informal arrangement, I think.
Wonderful.
So that's Sunday the 30th. And then there's a walk around what's called Anne Walker's Lightcliffe. That's Thursday, the 3rd of April at 2 o'clock. You've got a very experienced guide, that's me, as we walk around the area which Anne Walker would have known very well. Apart from the fact that she was born there, she died there, she's buried there. But also she did a certain amount of courting in Lightcliffe. And the idea is that we will be going to have a look at the outside of the house, Cliff Hill, where she was born and spent her last years there, and featured quite strongly in the Gentleman Jack series. We can't go inside this year because the owners are away. Nonetheless, that's a good part of it. The walk is about 2 hours, but it's gentle. We go around the outside of Lidgate House, but there are all sorts of other things, the connection with Cronest, and then we finish up back in the churchyard and the tower. So there's the opportunity, just as we've been talking about, for people who just come up just to see the tower and the churchyard. So excellent. I look forward very much for people signing up to that and meeting you and showing you around my part of the world,
yes,
which I love.
And let me just say this, Ian, one of the things that is most important, and you did allude to it a little bit, is there is no story about, there's no Gentleman Jack without Anne Walker. The series wouldn't even have been made. And so Ian has done a fabulous job in the 6 years that I've had the pleasure of knowing him, of opening up Ann Walker's world to those who come to visit to learn more about Ann Lister. So I'm delighted that you're doing this during the birthday week. So thank you for that.
Well, thanks, Pat. Let me just, before I go on to the last walk, just say how really good it has all been for Lightcliffe, Hipperholm, our little area, because without all of the information that we've been able to get through the Ann Walker and Ann Lister links, we wouldn't know half the history of our area in that particular bit, because there wouldn't have been that particular focus. And it's been great.
Yeah.
So we know so much more about the 1820s to 1860s and 70s in Lightcliffe because of this link.
Fantastic.
Let me go on and say the final walk that we're doing, which is on the Friday the 4th in the afternoon, and it's Ann Lister's Georgian Halifax. It's a 2-hour stroll around Halifax, looking at the architecture, the buildings that would have been known by Anne and visited by Anne during that period of time. It's taken by Anne Kirker, who is one of our local historians, who really is an expert on the buildings of Halifax of the period. And what's been really helpful for us is the search index on the diaries, because we can actually now link very closely. If we're going to Hopwood Hall or wherever, we put that in the index, and up comes when she was there, when Ann Lister was there, and what she was doing and who she was seeing. So I think that's going to be a really good opportunity.
Fantastic.
So those are the 3 walks. There is one more, and it's a very important one, and that's the walk. It's called Ann Lister's Funeral Walk, and David, who's coming on next, will be able to tell you all about that. Can I just say, Pat, in the list of information that you're putting out, if you'd also put the Calderdale Heritage Walks link in.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. It's there.
Good, because that has all of the details of the walks and events that I've been talking about. And that's on. So it's been really good. Thanks. Look forward to seeing you, everyone.
Thanks, Ian.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. And then our next guest is someone who every one of you who has come to Halifax before for ALBW or not, even on your own, who's been just such a joy to know since my very first trip there, David Glover. Come on board, David. Are you trying not to catch anything from everybody else that's sick?
I'm trying to keep warm, and I don't want people to think I've been cancelled in any way. So that's my idea. Hello,
well
Pat.
Done,
Lovely to
sir.
see you again, my friend.
Always good to see you, David. So we are really running behind, but I want to make sure that we get to your 3 walks. So first of all, again, we are going to have a few different ticketing sites for David's. The first one that we're going to talk about, that Ian just alluded to, will be on the Calderdale Heritage Walk site, and that's that source right there. David, tell us a tiny bit about that event, please.
So the 4th event, which is going to be led by myself, the 4th Calderdale Heritage Walks event, is going to be the Ann Lister Funeral Walk, which is an attempt to retrace the route by which her funeral procession went from Shibden Hall, at least from the gatehouse at Shibden Hall, down to the entry to Halifax Minster.
Wow.
And it's probably going to be about a 2-hour walk. It's going to be quite a noisy route, but we can't avoid that. And it's going to take place on a certain day, which I just need to remind myself, Tuesday, the 1st of April.
That's right.
Beginning at 1:30 p.m. at the inside of the gatehouse on Godley Lane. We shall not be meeting outside, we shall be meeting inside the grounds. And from there, we shall walk down to the town, looking at sights and new, with some references to her connections with other family funerals.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Okay, so that's that one. And then you have, tell us about the Holdsworth House event.
Yes, I've been asked to lead on a heritage talk at the wonderful 4-star hotel, which is an ancient house dating from 1633. Wonderful history, and you can stay there. You can book to stay there, some of you women and men, whoever. And
Yes.
we have a talk along with food. So it's there's food first, and then there's a 2-part talk about the history of this building. And what you will learn is history about another writer, another diarist, Elizabeth Wadsworth, who
Mm.
lived at more or less the same time as Anne Lister, had some connections there, had some connections with the Bronte family.
Oh, wow.
And so we come right the way down to the 21st century, and we learn all about certain people from very important TV series led by Sally Wainwright.
Indeed.
So we have various little vignettes of people who stayed at Holdsworth House when filming was going on. But I shouldn't forget to mention that there was a very important visit to Holdsworth House back in October 1964 by
Mm.
the Beatles. And this was the only visit by the Beatles to Calderdale. So there
Wow.
were lots of family information, celebrities from the early days in the 1630s down to the Pearson family, who now own and operate this wonderful hotel.
Now, and before you tell us about your last event, I want to put in a plug for the Holdsworth House. I have stayed, most of you know that I always stay at the Shibden Mill Inn. It's not always, because I have stayed at the Holdsworth House a couple of times. It's a wonderful facility, and their food is spectacular. So this idea of combining the dinner with the talk is really wonderful, and I'm gonna be there. I'm going. I'm dragging Brenda to it, and we're both going. So there you go. Now, moving on, you have one last thing to tell us about. So please do.
So a walk with a very funny title, which is going to take place on Sunday the 6th of April, starting at 1:30 p.m. And we're going to walk around Halifax in an anti-clockwise direction. It's not going to conflict with what Anne Kirker is doing. This is actually a walk for Halifax Civic Trust. And we're going to walk around Halifax looking at sites of interest connected with 23 women. So the title of this walk, as you can see on the screen, is 23 Women, 2 Female Ghost Stories and a Ducking Stool. A bit of a mouthful. You'll learn about all sorts of folk, some of whom were poor, some of whom were rich, some of whom we might consider were grossly immoral, some of whom were very, very respectable. And we shall go round and return to our start, and that's on Sunday the 6th of April, and that's from and back to the Halifax Cenotaph. You'll even hear about an orange seller who wasn't Nell Gwynn, and you'll hear about a slavery fighter in the United States.
Wow. 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 That's very interesting. I had an opportunity to do a Halifax walk last year and for those of you who often come to ALBW or to Halifax and focus primarily on Anne Lister, I have to tell you the history of Halifax is fascinating, and there are some amazing women who were part of the world of Halifax over those many centuries. So I'm delighted to plug this one. And again, this has its own ticketing link, and that ticketing link will be on the guide that Cheryl and I put together so that you know what's going on. David, I'm sorry to have to rush you off. We are just really up against it, and I still have to talk about ALBW. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for all you've done for Halifax and continue to do. I look forward to seeing you in April, Pat.
Absolutely. Be well.
And you.
Bye-bye. Well, have you been writing things down? Are you ready to go? Do you know which ones you want? So the one thing Cheryl and I don't want you to miss is the one official ALBW event that we're holding this year. Importantly enough, it's being held right on Anne Lister's birthday this year, which is Thursday night, April 3rd. We are throwing, instead of just the usual birthday bash where we have a little disco at the end, we're doing a dinner and a dance this year. And it's going to be a buffet dinner. I've seen the menu. It is spectacular. It will have vegan and vegetarian options. So we'll be having it's from 6:30 to 11. The dinner starts at 6:30. There is a drink included with the dinner. And if you only want to do the dance, you can definitely do that. If you only want to do the dinner, you can definitely do that. But I'm really urging all of you to take advantage of this opportunity for all of us to be together in this one place, celebrating Ann Lister, but celebrating ourselves as a community, because that's the real thing about ALBW that, quite frankly, just keeps my heart there. It's where we see and spend time with one another. So I really hope that you guys will buy your tickets and come on down and enjoy spending that evening with us. I know that many of you put together dinner events for when you first get into town so you can catch up with people. This is going to be a great place to do that. And I guarantee you're going to spend about the same amount of money that you would spend going to any of the other places in town. So please show up, because it's going to be a great time. And again, as always, the dance is going to be costume appropriate. So if you want to dress up, as I will, as I did last year and as many others did, we will have our costume contest. The disco once again will be led by DJ Mandy from the Todd Morton's Women's Disco. So she does a great job, and it's going to be a great time. So I think I got through that part okay. I know that we're right up against it time-wise. So let's, I may think of something else in the meantime, but Cheryl, you had a few questions that you've gathered. Let me just take a look at the magic list. Here we go. Very simple. And yes, I'm not wearing glasses anymore, only for reading. Okay, so we have only 2 ticket questions right now. What time will tickets go on sale next week? Rachel's tickets, we're going to have to look at her website to see what time her tickets go on sale. Ours will be going on sale on Saturday and probably roughly around noon. So we'll post that in ALBW chat, but you'll know all about it prior to that because, of course, we'll be running the ads and the links in ALBW. Where is the dinner dance? It's in our traditional gathering spot at the Arches at Dean Clough, which is a wonderful facility. If you haven't been there, we have a great big space for the dance itself. This is used for, it's a wedding venue. They use it for all sorts of receptions, etc. It has its own bar and bar area. So if you want a little bit quieter space rather than dance, you have the opportunity to do that. And then finally on this, can we get a list of sites and what's on sale at each? And yes, absolutely. As you can tell, there's a lot of different places you need to know about this year. And again, apologies, but nothing to be done about it. But you will be able, we will let you know exactly where you need to go for all of those. I would also be remiss if I didn't bring up once again, now that Cheryl, thankfully, as she always does, it's always, messaging me in the background, has clarified the Ohuli and Titow event. Ohuli and Titow will be in the Minster on Saturday night, and we will find that link for you as well. They've already been advertising that concert, as they do actually for a couple of months now. So we'll find that link. We'll have it on the list of things that you would like to know of. And Diane Halford has just popped in here. Hold on a second. She has something she wants to say. Ann Walker Shibden Tower Tour Monday, March 31st, 4 to 5 p.m., Shibden Hall, Halifax. After making your own way to Shibden Hall, In Search of Ann Walker will provide you with expert guidance through the rooms to hear funny and serious incidents from Ann Walker's life, as well as learning about the renovations she desired after Ann Lister's death. This tour also includes a visit to the library tower where Ann Walker sketched and snoozed. Don't miss the chance to take this in. And I'm telling you something, that Ann Walker has been so well researched by In Search of Ann Walker, everybody in that group, and is certainly especially Diane Halford, who is the woman who found the Ann Walker diary. So I am absolutely certain this is going to be a spectacular event. We'll get that on the list as well, because we really want you to be able to take part in that. So, well, we're only 4 minutes over our usual time. I want to thank everyone for showing up, and I'm thanking you in advance to all the people who will now log on and watch this, not in a live stream, but on the at our ALBW YouTube channel. We'll also have it on our ALBW page, which is separate from our ALBW chat group. So, without further ado, I want to thank everybody that's been involved in this today, everybody that appeared, Rachel, Laurie, Ian, David, myself. Thank you, Pat. And we will get that ticketing list out to you. And in the meantime, do be well, do be safe, do send your energy out to everybody that's suffering in the fires. And in the meantime, I will see you in Halifax.